to the May 11th Ways and Means Committee meeting. Please rise for a pledge. I pledge allegiance to your flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, liberty and justice for all. Thank you.
Maybe you could leave the link in case anybody's watching on BCAT.
Excuse me?
Never mind.
Too complicated. Let's just move on. All right, very good. I don't think we have, is there anyone here for public participation outside of agenda items? No? Good. All right, let's move right in here. We had a number of articles on the agenda. We will not be talking about most of them since they've been withdrawn or delayed. So the first one we're talking about is Article 20, which is the Police Command Officer's contract. Do we have a subcommittee report?
Yep.
Excellent.
So, Megan and I met with John last night to go over the police command contract and the patrolman's contract.
Yes, Frank.
So we'll do the police command contract first, which is Article 20.
Very good. You should be in now.
These two are actually very similar, but so for the police command contract, it's a 3-year deal, fiscal year 23, 24, and 25. Total of 16 people fall under this. From the economic package side, 2.5% increase on all steps for all 3 years. Changes to detail rates, which are normally done during contracts, so that amount that we charge, like Verizon or whoever is, requesting a detail. And we put in an EMT stipend to encourage the police command to get their EMT certification. Works out to be 5% of step 3, which comes out to $4,000 to $5,000. So we're just looking to incentivize people, so that's a little bit more than it was before. From a non-economic package side, there's language changes on overtime and court time. There's some clarification on bereavement and sick days as well. The clothing stipend has been eliminated. I believe what this boils down to is that the police department will provide the clothing now, rather than people having a stipend and going and getting, picking out their clothing themselves. And then policies were added for cybersecurity, which is like a state training type of thing, and body-worn cameras. It's all going to be transferred from the negotiated settlement account. The amount is $72,832. Subcommittee approved 2-0. Forgot that part.
Excellent. Anything from administration?
Thank you, John. Just like to add, I'd like to thank our counterparts. Collective bargaining is not an enjoyable process, so it's a lot of give and take on both sides. And, I think when both sides walk away a little bit dissatisfied, we have a pretty good deal, and I think that's the case here. And again, I'm thankful for all the work, and we're able to get it here. And I think it's a very fair contract to the officers and the town, and I'm hopeful that we can get your support on the funding. And again, as John said, as Mike said, no additional tax dollars. This is a negotiated settlement, 621% increase that we talked about the other night. So these funds will get transferred out of that money and into the police budget on July 1st.
Okay, and this is for 3 years starting this fiscal year?
Starting on this upcoming July 1st, correct.
Could you just repeat them out again, please?
The amount $72,832.
832. Great, thank you. Any discussion on this?
Just one small question. From the negotiated settlements account, obviously there's plenty of money in there, but is this allotment a fair number?
It's right in line with what we estimated.
Thank you.
Frank?
Thank you, John. Frank Monaco. I'm sorry I'm remote, guys. I know this is a pain in the neck. On the clothing costs, given that it's no longer a stipend and it's going to be paid for through the police department's budget. That's my understanding. So I assume, I'm wondering how much money that might amount to, and is it already taken care of in the operating budget submitted?
Thank you, John. Yes, Frank,
That amount is in the budget, will be paid from the same line. We're hoping that it will maybe generate a little bit of savings, but we won't know. Basically, the push for us was to, no pun intended, create some uniformity so that the chief gets to decide what you're wearing and when you need a new one, and go to the quartermaster system that we've already put in place for the patrol during the last contract. So this will allow us to do that, and it is, to answer your question, it is covered in the budget as submitted, so it won't be any increase.
Okay, thank you. No, that's fine, thank you.
Anyone else?
Move to approve?
Second.
Good. All right, we'll do a roll call. Chris?
Yes.
Doug?
Yes.
Mike?
Yes.
Frank?
Yes.
Rob?
Yes.
Ed?
Yes.
Roger?
Yes.
David?
Yes.
Jaya?
Yes.
Did I miss anyone else? Okay, and Vice Chair votes yes. That's 10-0-0 in favor. All right, and next we have Article 21, which is the police patrol contract.
Yep, so pretty similar, a lot of the same components, 3-year deal, fiscal year 23, 24, 25. This covers about 50 patrolmen, by the way, in the Patrolmen's Association. It's a 2.5% increase on all steps for all 3 years. Changes to the detail rate, as we talked about earlier. Changes to specialist stipend. So apparently there's 14 different types of specialists. For example, prosecutor of the court might be a specialist. That amount, if you're in that role, that amount's going up slightly. Flat education incentive. This goes back to when the original Quinn bill for the police was in place, then that went away. The town grandfathered people in that had the Quinn bill pay, and they created a new incentive for those coming on. This flat education incentive adds a little bit more to the top 2 degree levels for that. And again, we want to incentivize people to obtain that. The non-economic package includes updating language for holidays. We added Juneteenth as a holiday, and some language for transfers in from other police departments into Burlington, providing a little more flexibility on how that transfer can take place and what kind of step level the person transferring in can take. Same thing as the police command. There's policies for cybersecurity and body-worn cameras. Also, all this transferred from negotiated settlement. The amount is $123,946, and the subcommittee voted 2-0.
Anything further on that?
I would just repeat my statement, almost exact same as we did for police command. Difficult process, very reasonable process. I'm very thankful to the discussion we had with the officers, and we think this is a very fair contract to the town, and we urge your support of it.
And I apologize, I should ask the chief if he had anything additional to add.
Nothing new to add, thank you.
Thank you. Any questions? Roger?
Sort of follow up on the holiday. Why?
Mr. Chairman?
John?
So in the contract, actually in all of our union contracts, there was already a provision that said that if there is a new federal holiday designated, that will be added to their the list of federal holidays that they're already paid for. So if you think about police, they worked, their schedules aren't just Monday to Friday like us, so they can be scheduled on a holiday, so they get paid for that holiday. So this would just add Juneteenth to the list. They're already being paid for it once it was designated a federal holiday, so this is just housekeeping.
Okay, that makes sense. Does it put any pressure on the overtime budget? Because I know the pay rates for holidays are higher than regular days, right?
Yeah, it's already been absorbed because the holiday already existed. We've already had to do it once, so.
Thank you.
Frank?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Did I hear correctly from Mike that the number of people that are covered by this contract is 50? Is that correct?
Yes, Foxville, yep, 4950.
Okay. I thought it was actually a larger number. So this covers all patrolmen throughout the department, correct?
Yes, just patrol.
Okay. All righty. Thank you. Good job.
Ed?
Could you comment also on whether this meets the expectation in the negotiated settlements budget, so that it doesn't put pressure on any other settlements?
It's right in line with what we estimated, yep.
Thank you.
Anything further?
I just had a question, but I forgot what it was.
Roger's on the edge of something here. It's
No.
bubbling up.
No, it probably,
I can almost feel it.
it was an edge case, doesn't matter.
Okay.
Second, if that's where you were.
All right, very good. All right, we'll go to the vote then. Chris?
Yes.
Doug?
Yes.
Mike?
Yes.
Frank?
Yes.
Rob?
Yes.
Ed?
Yes.
Roger?
Yes.
David?
Yes.
Jaya?
Yes.
And Vice Chair votes yes. That gives us 10-0-0 in favor.
Can I ask a follow, I remembered my question. It
Yes,
doesn't
go
say
ahead,
anything.
go ahead.
So this is kind of what Frank triggered me. It's like, so what are the manning levels in the police force? I thought the number was up like 65. Am I missing?
The total amount of police?
Yeah,
So there is 50 patrol officers, there's 16 command officers, and the chief and deputy chief. So there's 68 sworn
okay,
officers.
all right, that's more like the number I was remembering. Thank you.
Would you like to change your vote?
No.
Very good. All right, we're all set with that. Just to make sure, those are all the contracts that we're ready to talk about tonight, is that correct?
Correct, so 16, the other ones from 16 to 23 will be withdrawn.
Okay. I'm compelled to ask just one question. I see the police is separated in patrol and command, but are the firefighters also separated, or there only seems to be one contract listed in the?
They just have one union, they're all in the same union.
Everyone's in the same one. Okay, very good, thank you.
Major flaw.
Okay. All right, that brings us to Article 28, the 119 South Bedford Street. Did we have a subcommittee looking at this? I'm not sure we did. No one
No,
here,
I
at
don't
least.
think
Okay, very good. All right. Come on up. And I did ask Select Board Member Runyon gave him a little bit of homework. There's to just explain the difference between the housing authority, the housing partnership, and other things with the word housing in it before we get into the details on this, because I know we have several groups. Please.
Burlington Housing Authority is more of a state agency. They're overseen by the Department of Housing and Community Development. The Housing Partnership Committee was sort of hastily put together some 25 years ago in response to some 40B proposals that had hit town and sort of caught us flat-footed. So that's the,
And then there's also an affordable housing group, is that correct?
we're hoping that at some point in the future, that there will be a municipal affordable housing trust group that will take away all the confusion that we're gonna hear tonight.
All right, at this point, just two groups then, okay.
Two groups right, for right now.
All right, and which group are you representing?
I represent the Housing Partnership Committee, as does my colleague, with a different opinion, Eileen Sickler, and Kerry Donahue, who's joined us remotely.
Very good. All right. Is that, okay, that's Carrie there. Okay, good.
Kerry's
All right,
with us.
she turned into a real person there. Excellent. Which of you would like to talk first?
Well, if I may, John.
Certainly.
Let me give you, I know we're running late on time, I just want to give you a very quick history on South Bedford Street. It's some 12 units of single-family housing. It was considered surplus by the United States government back in the early 90s and offered to the town of Burlington for a very low price of something like $1 each, okay? So that was really our first stab at affordable housing here in Burlington, other than the state senior housing that was already in place. It has been a very successful program for the last 25 years. We've had very little turnover up there. The people that have originally purchased the homes are, in most instances, are still living there today. 2019, I believe, we did get one, we took one back from foreclosure. Town meeting voted the funds for us to do so. We rehabilitated that house, and we just recently placed a single mom who happened to be a local school teacher as well. She took possession of the house recently, and she's just tickled pink. We have a situation here with a second house on that street. The owner is at a point in her life where she wants to move on. She's been there for 25 years, and she notified the town that she would like to sell, which she is obliged to do under the deed restriction of the property when she bought the house. The slippery slope is, with the surge in home prices here in Burlington, we're all aware of, the resale value is calculated under a formula by DHCD. That calculation came out to roughly $335,000 that the seller is entitled to. It also needs some work. There's some asbestos in there, and it needs some updating as well. The local building inspector did a home inspection, and he estimates that those repairs and updates could run anywhere from $75,000 up to $100,000, putting the overall cost of the house at $435 tops, which now puts it out of reach of an eligible low income earner under the program that is in place up there. So the other option is, if the town cannot find an eligible buyer, then the seller has a right to sell the house at whatever she's allowed. $335 is what she's allowed. My request to town meeting is to fund the purchase of the house plus the repairs and allow us to consider a couple of different options to keep that home in our affordable inventory. If we don't buy it, we lose it from our affordable housing inventory. A couple of the options for us to consider are purchase the home, make the necessary repairs, and then offer it to a first-time home buyer at $435 with no strings attached other than them being a first-time home buyer, and that they remain in the home for 5 years, and then there would be no deed restriction. The other option I'm considering, and I'm in talks currently with the Housing Authority, that they purchase the house from us, we assist them with the repairs, and then it will, for years to come, will be an affordable unit, a rental unit for the Burlington Housing Authority. So that, in a nutshell, is my proposal.
Just to be clear, which one are you proposing?
I'm proposing that the town meeting allow us to borrow the funds from the Affordable Housing Fund that we have, which currently is about $1 million. Pay the seller, which he's due, and enough money to make the repairs, and then we will continue to work with the Housing Authority in the meantime, and if that doesn't pan out, then we offer it to a first-time home buyer with the 5-year deed restriction that I would recommend.
Okay.
Get our money back.
And you have a different opinion, Ms. Sickler?
Yes. Thank you, and good evening, everyone. I'm Eileen Sickler, Housing Partnership member and Town Meeting member, Precinct 4. Hopefully you received the Word doc that I sent to Chair Moran earlier today.
That was forwarded earlier today. Have you
Okay.
all gotten that?
Yes.
Yeah. Excellent.
I mean, it lays out some of the reasons why the committee voted 5-1 to advise the Select Board not to purchase this house. It felt rushed from the get-go. We just felt like there was a lot of open-ended questions, and just set us up for not looking. It was just not a great setup. We believe 5-1 that it was better to allow the current owners to sell the house, and for us to then collect the differential, as I bulleted here, between the maximum selling price that they could get, which is $340-ish, and the fair market value. So that spread of whatever that is, they can get $500 for it or $550, let's say $540. So that difference of $200 would then come back into the Housing Partnership Fund. I mean, the other thing that that struck us was the Housing Needs Assessment Report that we're doing and should be finished in June or July is going to be, I think directional for us to inform us about, the best use of resources. And so we felt that let's wait for that to happen and utilize that extra $200,000 in addition to the current balance, and make other decisions.
Does the administration have any position on this?
We submitted the article as a placeholder to provide options.
Very thoughtful. All right, yep.
We have questions. Chip, anything?
Oh, I'm sorry. Carrie, did you wish to speak on this also?
Yeah, just briefly to add to what Eileen said, I really share Mike's concern about losing the house from our affordable housing inventory. But aside from the mathematical rationale that just says it doesn't add up for us to be able to purchase this house, and we would certainly end up financially in a better position if we let the sellers purchase it, or the owners sell it, and we get the differential. The other thing is, as Eileen said, the housing needs assessment that I'm working closely with MAPC on has really shown us that what people who are affordable buyers want is not necessarily single family homes. So that's my other concern. The 117 South Bedford, which we fully remodeled, and largely because Mike was able to get a lot of donated labor and pieces for that, we had a really hard time finding a buyer for that. And that was a fully remodeled home that we sold for $300,000. I'm just concerned that we're really not going to find a buyer for a less renovated home at a higher price point. So that's kind of where I fell in the vote that we took.
Thank you.
Okay, discussion. Chris?
I have two questions.
The first one is, if I'm correct, on that street, there's a number of affordable housing that are together. Is that correct?
There's 12 altogether.
All right, so if we were to let it go and to be sold, and let's say we play out Mr. Runyon's idea of a 5-year deed restriction, then 5 years from now, could they potentially level that house and then put up a $1 million house, and then all of a sudden, all of those affordable housing have now gone through the roof, and no longer will any of those stock be potential for affordable housing if they need to be flipped?
After 5 years, the owner would be allowed to.
Do what they wish with the house. That will have no bearing on the home prices of the other homes. We are clumped in with the greater Boston region in terms of how DHD sets maximum resale prices on homes, and that's where we get our numbers from. as far as the, you know, the point here, the big assumption from both Eileen and Kerry is the seller has no obligation whatsoever to go out and find a buyer for more than 335, which she is allowed. She could, there are plenty of people walking around this town with $335,000 in their pocket. She could pick up the phone tomorrow morning and within 30 minutes have an envelope with $335,000 in it. There is no guarantee whatsoever that the town is going to gain $200,000 on this sale of this property. None.
Can I just say one thing? One more.
Actually, let's just get
Okay,
some
right.
questions and then we'll come around for a second round. David?
You've got some patience. I've got a few, but to concur, and we also lose a affordable housing unit. I want to start with the process. So I saw the appraisal that was given by the sellers, and that went into the resale. How's the resale calculation determined? I didn't see the rider on the deed. So how is that determined? What is the number at 335 that we're already saying is going to exist?
Again, this comes as a surprise to the seller as well. The deed restriction says they're allowed 80% of certified
Average.
appraised value
Okay.
or maximum resale price.
Right.
So the 81% of the appraised value exceeds the maximum resale price as established by DHCD.
Right, maximum price just on a loan-to-value standpoint.
Yes.
Or it goes down to what they bought it for, what they spent in costs. And again, there's a number in there as far as loan-to-value goes. But it seems like we're relating it now back to an income level, and that's what's determined in the 335. So the 335 isn't appraisal generated at all. It's higher, no question, because that's what the market is.
It's what a four-person family at 80% of area median income
Sure.
can reasonably afford.
So what you've done from your calculation, and this is where I don't know if it's verbatim, is we've said at 80% income, we have a certain dollar amount that represents. We know what the dollar amount is, so the income level can only be at this level. Now let's back into a mortgage amount based on that. And we're making a lot of assumptions on that number.
Yeah.
We don't know where that's gonna be at whatever time. But we said, okay, they can only spend 30% on housing, they can only do this, they can only do that. And with that number, we're assuming that number's gonna be 335. Is 335 in the memo that we gave to the owners, is that now kind of a firm number?
That's a firm number as of April 22nd.
Because we put it in writing.
We used the latest DHCD figures that came out on April 1st.
And DHSC also reverts back to what affordability, not income level, but what affordability level is for someone that wants to buy a house that meets that income criteria. Because again, a bank may do 35%, we're doing 30%. That's what we say they can afford. Bank may do 35%. There may be incentives for them to do more.
It could be.
But, I know so.
I'll just mention that our town accountant was nodding yes, that's a firm number.
Yep,
Yeah. So,
Just to get a slightly more impartial
so just,
opinion on this.
what it reverts back to in the deed rider where it talks about what an eligible purchaser. So there's a formula that DHCD uses that our housing expert did for us that put in the income level and the time of the sale. It takes into account what the mortgage rates are.
okay.
It factors all that in, and I think it might be.
That's what the chart was?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. That's too bad. Because I think that number could have been a little different. So now we go to, again, the appraised value doesn't matter. The inspection of the property, totally different than the other property next door. I viewed that one myself. So we have had our own inspector go in and take a look at the property?
Yes.
Okay, because the appraisal says that it's in good condition.
overall condition.
Good overall condition.
Without any mention of asbestos or.
Asbestos, which was there when we sold them the property back in '95.
Yes.
are we responsible now to take it out?
Morally responsible, I would say yes. In
Well,
'95,
again,
you were.
every house built in
In
the
1995,
'60s
we were allowed to
would have-
cover the asbestos with carpeting or other floor coverings. I don't believe that's the case today.
Right, but 95 is a big number. So I don't know what is needed from the standpoint of someone coming in at this level to buy a house at a low number. And we don't have to give them a brand new kitchen. I mean, again, there's that level of what are they willing to spend? And in this market, I'm questioning whether we need to spend 100,000.
I'm not sure we need to spend 100,000, Dave, to be honest with you, but we need to make it move-in condition, let's put it that way. We're not gonna sell a young family just starting out a house that needs all new plumbing and cabinets and things like that. We wanna give them something that they can move into, reasonably comfortable without having to put out a lot of money to make it livable.
Right, but I agree, but the appraisal that was given by them counters what this
I'm not a
inspector is
I'm not a-
saying.
I'm
So
not a certified
I don't,
appraiser.
right, but they gave us their appraisal. So,
They did.
anyways,
Bottom line is I'm reluctant to just give up one of our.
right. So let me just end by, again, basically saying that same thing. We have an affordable housing stock. We're looking at actually adding some additional monies into the program to entice affordable housing in Burlington. We've got a property that's valued at $545,000 per the seller's appraiser, which we could go ahead and sell, hopefully in the open market for the $330. If we have to put some money into it, we put some money into it, but we keep our affordable housing stock, and we're doing what the fund was meant to do, and that was promote affordable housing in the town in an area that actually has that. I agree wholeheartedly. There is zero incentive. So it's 120 days firm that we have to make. The sellers have zero incentive, once they know that they want to sell it on the open market, zero to sell it for $545, nothing. So they could sell it to their cousin for $350,000, and the town doesn't realize any of that. So again, our whole idea, and I'm surprised in the housing partnership, because that's what that's what we want to do. We want to promote housing. Is that I don't want to let this go for the dollar amounts that we're talking
We'll
about.
give
So
Riley another shot at that in a little bit.
I don't know what your order.
Hey, go ahead, Roger.
I try not to cover old territory. To me, one of the biggest concerns is actually losing the lot. I don't think I care about the house, but there's a place to build a house. And if the housing study that comes out says, you know, we need more multifamily stuff, we'd have a lot if we bought it. So I wouldn't want to let it go either, because land is precious as well. Not big enough to put a police station on, but, sorry, there's a digression. Is it viable to buy suppose we bought the house, but didn't approve money to improve it, and figure out what's gonna happen to it later, and come back for the money to do renovations or decide how to use it later? To me, that would be another viable alternative, that we don't have to commit to the whole thing right away. If the town buys the house, if we take an option on it, are we committed to keep it as affordable housing? We just own it, and it's up to the various boards to figure it out. Okay.
I would say yes, Paul, I don't know.
I mean,
I would agree with that, yes.
I mean, morally, maybe we want to, but legally, we don't have there's no deed restriction for us or anything else. It's just, we got it free and clear. Okay, that's enough for me.
Any other questions? Frank?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is a little bit complicated. I think I have a fairly simple question that may not have a simple answer, and it's more to Carrie and to Eileen. Suppose that we can net money from. In other words, we let it go, and we garner some money. We put that into our our funds, and now that's available to use for other opportunities. That's your logic, am I correct?
Eileen's
That's one of the
giving a
reasons,
nod,
yes. That's one of the reasons, yes.
The video is terrible. I couldn't tell, Eileen. So here's my question first. Assuming that we increase our money from $1 million something to whatever, where are we going to find affordable housing stock to buy? Where is it available to us to get housing like that?
Carrie, do you want to take that?
Yeah, so again, going back to the assessment that we're doing, it's going to give us recommendations and options for things that we could do going forward. It could be that once we have the Affordable Housing Trust, we could choose to buy another single family home down the line that comes up available. There's different models for purchasing homes that aren't already in the housing stock that could become part of our stock.
Okay.
The trust would give us the flexibility that right now we don't have to purchase other properties. It also gives you the flexibility to, for instance, purchase an old, building that isn't being used for something and convert it into multifamily. And if the needs assessment tells us that what we really need is more multifamily affordable units, then that would be a smarter use of the funds. Right now, that's kind of the vibe we're getting, but the assessment's not done, so we don't know for sure. But what we do know is that we had a really hard time selling 117 South Bedford, the house next door. So it really seems as though it's going to be a struggle to sell this house at a higher price point, especially with interest rates rising right now.
Yeah.
And keep it affordable for someone. It just mathematically, it just doesn't seem to add
Okay.
up.
And I follow your logic. I don't mean to cut you off. I think we're a little pressed for time, and this is hard remotely. So let's assume that you get the money and then you go out shopping and you find something. What you're saying is that you might actually opt to do apartments or condos, multifamily density housing, and that might work out better because there's more interest in it. But first, if you
You
try,
potentially help more people than just getting one family into one house.
right. So first, and that makes some sense, makes a lot of sense. But if you try to do something with a single family home anywhere in Burlington, it's going to cost you more money than what this will, no matter what happens. There's no way on earth you're going to find a single family home in Burlington that's a shipwreck and keep it as a single family home and put it back on the market for affordable. So that's going to be off the table. Now, hold on for just a second with my logic. So if we hang on to this and we put it back on the market, your concern is it more that no one can afford it, or is it that no one will want to buy it at the 435?
It's not that they won't want to, it's that they won't be able to. So my concern is that in the same way that Mike is mentioning that there's no guarantee that the seller would sell it for more than what they're due, there's also no way for us to know that it's not going to cost us more money than what's
Right.
estimated to renovate it either. So we could end
Okay.
up spending even more money, which makes it less affordable and harder to resell.
Yeah. I get. Okay. I don't mean to cut you off. This is really hard for me to do this way. My gut would be we could manage what Mike is thinking, what he's articulating is we'll put enough into it that we don't blow our budget, but it's move-in condition, it's safe, it's functional, and it helps somebody out to get into a home, and that we can come closer than not to the affordable level. Now, my first question relative to that is, 'cause, I think if the building of some inspector that for us came in and said, that somewhere around 100K we could make this rehab more than enough, then we've got a number, and I have no reason to think that that's going to be way off. But what if it did cost us more? So we've sunk more into it. We still want to put it on the market as affordable. Why can't we put it on the market at any number we want so that it is affordable? In other words, we absorb the loss through our own funds.
We could, but my committee was trying to be fiscally responsible and didn't want us to go out there expecting.
I know, but our goal is to get housing to people. So I think where you're headed is right. Where you're headed is, and I'm not sure what I agree with yet, is I think you're feeling that we can take care of more people with density housing, dollars per person. We can get to more people with density housing, and that the market is pretty good for that, and that's a better route to go. I think that's what
Essentially,
you're thinking.
And I am concerned that with rising interest rates right now, it's getting harder for low-income buyers to be able to qualify for and afford a mortgage. So we had trouble with 117. I'm concerned we're gonna have even more trouble. with
Right. All right. Why did we have so much trouble with 117? Nobody was qualified or nobody wanted it?
Can I just, I believe we had 5 or 6 candidates, only, I think, 2 or 3 were qualified. And yeah, we were stunned that we didn't get more action on that. Not sure. And, one reason was people don't want to take care of property. They want to go into a condo sort of thing and not have to mow the grass, et cetera. So that was one possibility for not getting a lot of people. But that house was fully restored. Everything was replaced. Yes, heating, everything.
Everything, yeah.
Yeah, and that was 2019, is that right?
That was 117. That was 117.
No, what year was it?
Oh, I'm sorry, just this year.
This year. And we
Yes.
only got 6 applicants and only
Yes.
2 or 3 qualified. So,
Yes.
Mike, what's your reaction to that?
Our target audience had to be income eligible, Frank, okay? They had to be at or below 80% of the area median income, which sort of limited our potential customers. My proposal for this one is, there will be no income restrictions on this, but there will be a 5-year deed restriction that they remain in the home and that they be first-time home buyers. At least we're giving someone an opportunity to establish themselves here in Burlington. I can tell you, if this was available, my son's been looking for a house, a condo, anything for 5 years. If this was available at 445, he'd be applying for it, I can guarantee you. And I'm sure many of your sons and daughters out there would be as well.
Doug's up
Doug?
over here. I've got a follow-up too, but on
Ed?
last
Yeah,
time.
everyone
So-
gets one quick question at this point. We need to leave about
I,
5
could we
minutes.
clarify, if we let the sellers just sell it, it's on the free market, the rider goes away. So there's a house down the street from me that was sold for $650,000. It was torn down the next week. So it's out there, and I think the idea of selling for less than what you paid, there's a much easier way than going into the real estate business as a town to do that, and that's to just give somebody some money. And I think that if the idea is selling a good bargain to a selectman's son, I'm done. Like, we can't be picking and choosing. So I think we have to try to go with the market as it is. And it looks like there's a very narrow window that's closing for a single-family house such as this, as an affordable home as it was envisioned years ago.
Did anyone have another quick question? Roger?
I guess my question is, could we put enough money in to buy the property and then sell it on the open market? Because then we could control the sales price, which was your concern.
That would be one way to ensure that the town gets the additional revenue.
Right.
Right.
I did just want to follow up on something that Ed mentioned. I want to be clear on this. The deed restriction only applies to the current owner. It doesn't survive a sale. Is that, so if the current
It
owner.
only carries over if we were to go the resale route and find hold the lottery, so on and so forth. If the town buys it, there is no deed restriction on it. You can
No, but if the current seller, if the town decides not to buy it and the current seller just sells it presumably for $335 because they have no reason to charge more, is there any restriction on what the next owner could sell it for?
There is not, no.
That sounds like a fault in our deed restrictions to allow that, but.
Yes,
Can I
just
please?
have one clarification
Yes,
from our
please.
housing expert, is the town sets the minimum listing price, and the town has to approve the sale price in order to release the deed restriction. So if they were gonna sell it for $340, we wouldn't release deed restriction, we just wouldn't approve the sale. So that's, not a housing expert, but that's in the letter from that's in the email chain from our housing person on prepping, if we do go the route of releasing the deed restriction, what do we do? So that's just
So.
to clarify
The
that.
town has the leverage of not releasing the deed restriction if they don't approve the sale price.
Correct. The town has to approve the final sale price and set the minimum listing price.
So that's how we could enforce getting more money than the 335.
Hold on, wait a second. So within the 120 days, we go out and we, again, we go through the process of trying to get someone. You're saying if after 120 days, we can still say there's a minimum price? Again, I'm confused at what you just said. What are we setting the minimum price? When are we doing that?
So I'm not sure about after 120 days, David, but that was in preparations for what if, depending on what happened at this town meeting, we asked our housing expert to, what's next step if we decide we wanted to sell at market and release the deed restriction? And that's what we got back, that a draft of what would go to the person saying, we're not gonna look for an eligible purchaser, we're not gonna buy it. We are prepared to release the deed restriction and sell at market rate. We expect the listing price to be a minimum of this and need to approve a final sales price.
Which has to be the minimum that we put in this letter, 340, or can that be higher?
No, in that draft letter, it was like 5 something. It was based off the appraisal. So that would need to be worked out if we decided to go that route.
You know, that's,
But I don't have an answer to your question about what happens at the 120.
that's not in the, I've not read that in any deed restriction that we have on
Can we
that
push this
property.
to the end of the town meeting agenda so we could work on it next Monday?
Yes.
So I have a problem with the wording of the warrant article. So I was trying to figure out what Ways and Means could vote on, and there's a problem with that. It's like, I don't know what we would vote on.
So I think we have a few options here since we are coming up against the town meeting clock. I think it's pretty obvious we have a few more questions that are unanswered. We could just vote on the knowledge we have, or we could defer voting and say we want to have more discussion either at a further Ways and Means meeting or a town meeting with everyone involved. I'm sure that will go well.
I'd like to be constructive in this process, and just walking away isn't the most constructive thing.
No.
Which admittedly is what we've seen from the selectmen so far and from the committee.
No,
So it's a real conundrum.
Personally, I would suggest we schedule another meeting and continue discussion so we can fill in some of the gaps in our knowledge, which I think we're zeroing in on, but I'm not sure we obviously aren't going to solve them next minute. Does anyone have a compelling desire to vote now?
No, but if town meeting does not consume the entire evening this evening, it will be on the agenda for tonight's town meeting, and we will lose any opportunity.
Point of order, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, Frank.
If you ask the moderator to take a vote of town meeting to move an article out of order, and the order we choose is late, that can be done. I think town meeting would go along with that, because they've got nothing to gain by asking an article to stay in order that we're not ready for.
Right.
That's a risk you take. And I think it would be much better if we had more time. I actually have some questions and there just isn't enough time. I think I see a way out of this that would make everybody happy, but there isn't enough time.
Right.
Okay. Fine with it.
Chris, did you have a quick point to make?
I kind of like the idea of the no vote option at this time, so at least we can say, as Ways and Meetings we heard, but we chose not to take a vote. And then if there is the time, then we can reconvene for Monday. But you know, if we're a town meeting and the only article that's left is this, and we have time tonight, I can't imagine everyone's going to want to postpone for just one article for Monday.
I'm going to go out on a limb and predict the town meeting will not finish tonight.
Yeah.
I think we can take that to the bank.
There's no way it's going to finish tonight.
Okay, then I'm fine with scheduling another meeting.
Okay, I'm going to suggest we schedule our meeting. We'll get that done quickly if we're going to do it Monday to meet today's Wednesday. So we should have time to schedule that if we want to do that. So I'll talk with the chair about setting that up, and we'll suggest to the moderator not to bring this up tonight if at all possible, which I think it's far enough down the agenda. It might happen by accident anyway. Is everyone comfortable with that?
Very.
Okay, all right, I think that's everything on our
John,
agenda for
excuse me,
tonight.
Mr. Chair,
Yes,
just one
Eileen.
second. Yes, at the risk of understating here. So as you can see, it's complicated. And
Yes.
so answers like this, on the fly, I mean, that's what we were concerned about. You know, we didn't have all the facts. We didn't even know what we didn't know. So anyway, that was the concern. And also, Mike had mentioned something about a 5-year restriction or something. I'm not sure we talked about that in the housing partnership. So there were some things also that Mike has mentioned that we haven't talked about. So that was a concern.
We'll put you down as in favor of needing more information.
Always.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
If we had acquired the property, there would be time to figure out how to dispose of it.
We can bring that up in our next discussion. I think that's everything for
All right,
tonight.
let's go.
Thank
Very
you.
good. Everyone go to town meeting. We're adjourned.